Hello, everyone. It's time to eat, drink, and be merry with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio. You know, we love our first Saturday shows with Diva Linda. Diva Linda is the food, wine, and shopping diva. Her name is Linda Kissam, her true name, but we just call her the Diva. She is on the show every first Saturday, and she's either talking about a travel destination or food, wine, shopping. She likes things that glitter and sparkle, but she also likes really good wine. And when Diva Linda says, I'm bringing really good guests on the show, we listen and we know she never disappoints. And today she's got two special guests joining us with some really special, and I mean really special, exquisite wine. We've got Dave and Sara Specter joining us. They are the owners of Bells Up Winery out of the Willamette Valley region of Oregon. And I encourage you to go to their website, bellsupwinery.com, and also keep up with Diva Linda at All in Good Taste, right? She's a diva, allingoodtaste.info. But first things first, the diva's on the show. So welcome back, Diva Linda. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. I'll be getting ready to transition to Seattle in a couple of weeks. So desert behind me and boats in front of me.
Oh, so are you going to have wine while you float again? Because normally in summer,
Yeah.
I know you carry a bunch of wine in the belly of the boat and keep it cool.
We do. We find crazy places, put them that are under the water line in the boat, and they stay a beautiful 52 degrees or so, 58. And so we do each year I try a new winery, and then we try them with the stuff that we catch and stuff that restaurants that we go to that don't have wines, because when you're out in the middle of Canada, the wine lists are non-existent or limited.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my. Yes. When you hit a town of 300.
Oh yeah,
maybe,
yeah. I see
not,
what you mean.
Yeah, maybe not so much. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting that stuff coming out of the box kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, if you can find it, actually,
Ooh,
wine
that
coolers.
bad.
Wine coolers are good, and So anyway, we'll see. We have a new itinerary this year, and so we'll see. But we're always stocked with wine, and that's the point of your question. And a lot of fish go on this.
Listen,
trip,
Linda's not getting on the boat without her wine. That's truly the thing, and a new pair of shoes, shoes and wine. Otherwise, she's not doing it.
I do.
Yeah, I knew you did. I'm very excited to have you both on the show, Dave and Sara. We love your wine. We were tasting it last night, and especially white wines. Nancy and I are picky about white wines, and I think this country is getting better and better and better about them. We lived in South Africa for many years, and white wines just were. It's the best water you could ever have. and so then coming over here, it took a little while for us to find our feet. And whenever you find a really good white wine, you're going, yay. And tell us a little bit about that. I want Linda to chirp in, but I just want to start with that because it's the Helios, right, that we had that tell us a little bit about it, because this is a pure breed.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Lisa, for having us on. So yes, what you had was the Helios, and the Helios is made from a grape called Seyval Blanc, and that's Seyval. I suspect that it's a wine that very, very few of your listeners are familiar with. To be fair, about 99% of the people we get in our tasting room here in Oregon have never heard of it either. And that's one of the reasons for that is it's a grape that is rarely found outside of the Finger Lakes in Western New York and the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic states. It's a grape that was created in France. Two different varieties of a grape called Ciboule were blended to create this particular grape. But it is in France not considered, quote, a noble grape. And as a result of that, none of it is actually planted in France. Where you do find it in Europe is in southern England, where a lot of it ends up getting bubbled up, made into sparkling wine. But it now in America has a home, as I said, in the Northeast and in the Midwest. colder weather grape. That's kind of the key to it. And one of the reasons why we knew that it would do very well here in Oregon, where our climate is very, very different than it is in California or in Washington State, where pretty much all the grapes in Washington State are grown in the center and eastern part where it's very hot. Here it's cold, it's cool, it's cold, it's wet. So, there are a lot of grapes that we're unable to grow. We can't grow the big heavy reds, but something like Sauvignon Blanc that's got a little more delicacy to it, and that really does like the cooler weather has proven it can really thrive.
Well, it was amazing to me when you talk about those different climates and regions where it's from, which we've traveled through some of those areas. It isn't sweet, and that would be the first thing you would think. It would be this very sweety, syrupy kind of wine, like maybe a dinner, after dinner kind of treat. But to me, this was, we tried it and then tried it again later. We do that kind of like taste it, let it breathe, and then try it again. And you start getting even more notes. And there was some light honeysuckle, very light. But then I was like, what? There is a little bit of grapefruit. There is a little bit of this tartness, but not over tarty. Oh, we got to be careful how we say the word tart. But Diva Linda, I mean, how did you find it too? Did you find that where you would maybe think it would be sweet, but it's just the perfect blend? I get to use that word.
Well, this wine is sort of like Pinot in that it's either done well or it's not. And sometimes if it's not turning out the way winemakers want, it becomes a sweet wine. They just and then they label that as such, and that's fine. But when it's done like this, it's quite beautiful. It for me, it had big notes of citrus, which I love. I like that, and an earthiness. So when you put the earthiness with the citrus, for me, that's a winner. That's almost like a New Zealand wine, and I really like that. I got tropicals on it, tropical fruits, which again is a winner for me, and a slight spread of diesel, actually. And to me, that's very, very interesting. Now, do not think I'm saying this tastes like gas. It does not. It's just like when you say some reds can have sort of a green pepper sort of taste. It adds interest. I liked it. I think it's food friendly up the yazoo. It's also good for patios. And if your guests are tired of being, introduced or welcomed with champagne or always Sauvignon Blanc, this is a really good conversation starter, I think. And certainly was for me when I had some friends over to taste this with me. And, what is this? Is it Sauvignon Blanc? No, it's not. Did it come from New Zealand? No, it did not.
I know, right? That's the first thing. New Zealand, South Africa, or Australia.
Yep. And so anyway, I really, and it was a bit creamy, which was kind of fun, and which is the smooth characteristic. But I know that this was a wine that was presented to some of our IFTWA members in a seminar, and it got nothing but raves. We didn't have to exclude anybody because they didn't find it pleasant. So good for you guys.
Diva Linda goes well with pickles, and I did try a pickle. I did. I went in. I did. You know me, pickles, like I'm in.
Oh,
so you can get pickles.
Yeah. Did you like that? Was that?
Yeah, just a bite. I just took one bite and a sip, and it worked. And here's the deal. You said gas, and so I have to go, Dave. She's allowed to talk about classical gas. Explain the classical gas on your wine and your name.
Well, yeah, the gas part, I can at least talk about it. I will say one thing about Linda, about the diesel you mentioned. For those of your listeners that have had German Rieslings, that diesel will be very familiar to you. That's very much the sort of sensation that you will get off of the German Rieslings. Just it happens to be in this particular wine instead, and it's just, as we always say, it's part of its charm. But yeah, so the classical music, and so our whole sort of theme with the winery has been based around classical music, and the reason for that is I was a French horn player for 20 years. Started when I was in 6th grade. When I was in college, I was in the symphony, wind ensemble, And yes, I was also a marching band geek. Had a lot of amazing experiences. I was good enough to have a chance at a professional career. I like to think I was smart enough to not do it. I had a lot of friends that went down that road, and it is just so difficult to make a living and still keep the joy in playing. And so I took a very different career path instead. But when it came time to start our winery, you know, one of the things we think about is connections. Our model, because we are such a small winery, we focus so much on connecting with every customer that comes in and sees us. And that's more important ever than now. I mean, in where we are in the Willamette Valley, we're now up to about 800 wineries. So you really have to find ways to get people to be able to make connections beyond just what you're tasting. And so I came up with the idea of leveraging what I had done in the classical music realm and said, well, what if we give each wine a personality based on a particular piece of music? And we name the wines that way. So, you know, when we talk about that, when folks are here, we talk about the relationship between the particular piece of music and the wine. You know, the goal is so that people can kind of, as they're tasting, almost hear the music. And of course, you know, we can play it for them so that they can literally hear it. But the point is,
I love that.
So that they can actually do that experience themselves. And that has been a really fun way to kind of build the emotional connection between every individual and each individual wine. I mean, you could make Seyval Blanc and you could label it Seyval Blanc, but when you come to us, it's Helios. The particular inspiration for Helios, and I actually have to credit my mother-in-law for this because it's a piece that I was completely unfamiliar with, but it was a piece it's basically a tone poem describing a sunrise that Carl Nielsen wrote. And my mother-in-law had heard it played on NPR, and I went to listen to it, and it was absolutely perfect. And tying into what Linda was saying about sort of that earthiness. So if you could imagine kind of a sunrise coming up over a dewy meadow, and you kind of get that, you know, that little mustiness.
Oh boy.
Now, that's, I thought, captured the essence of this wine so well that I
see, now we need more. Now we need it again. We need it again now. See, because then it's like the Dawn's chorus, you know. See, and I am not opposed to trying it at sunrise. I am not opposed to that. I don't go by the rules of that, you know, that kind of timing, but musical timing, yes. But I think there's something like what you're saying, that each wine is an experience. And I wanted to go to Sara on this. What is the experience for people coming to see you? Because you're such a small lot winery. I mean, that we all feel very special. I know, Linda, you probably feel the same way when you get to taste these wines and talk to people about them and write about them. You feel special that we got to have some because it's so small, right, Sara? So tell us a little bit about how people can interact and you know, can they come to the winery and just show up, or appointments? How does that work?
Absolutely. So
At sunrise, by the way.
yeah, we're looking really good at sunrise. So it is literally just the two of us. We make about 600 cases a year. So we're very small. We do a lot of very small production wines. So the Helios was what, I don't even remember.
Something like 65 cases, something like that.
See, we're special. We got the specials.
You are?
Yeah, very tiny. That's actually grown on our estate. We have a vineyard here. We have about 10 acres. Not all of it's planted. And Dave makes all the wine, and I do the marketing and answer the phones and do the website and that sort of thing. When harvest comes around, I'm logistics, but Dave is also host of all of our wine tastings. So we only do by appointment. We do 3 appointments a day. They are 100% exclusive to one group at a time. So you come in, whether you're one person or up to 6 people. We can sometimes do 8, but we try to max at 6. That you hang out with Dave, he sits down with you, he pours the wines. It's very much a conversation like what we're having here. He explains his winemaking philosophy, the approach to making each wine, the music concept, but it's very tailored to whatever the group is interested in hearing about. So it's super customized to each group that comes through. So yeah, so,
That's amazing.
and
Diva Linda, that is unique, right?
It's
for
very
people.
unique, actually. It's very unique. And like always, if you're on your wine journey, this has got to be one thing that's on your bucket list early, so that you understand. I mean, it's very easy to go and have tastings at large wineries. And you should do a couple of those, a couple at medium, couple at small, and then this is like a boutique winery. And you just never know when a winery is going to get so large, or they're going to keep their production down and you won't be able to go again because it's always sold out. So, I think we have a star here, and it would be my recommendation to go see this. This should be on your bucket list. This should give you a different view of how wine is made, and instead of the great big productions and so forth. And even the small ones that do 1,500, 2,000 cases a year, this is below that. And to have a sit down with the owner winemaker is just unbelievable, so that you can hear why he did the wines. You can talk about the taste of the wines. Some people, especially on their beginning journeys, just don't know how to express what a wine is to them. They'll say, give me something fruity. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yes.
Or give me something dry, and they don't really know what dry means, but they want it to sound good, right? When I worked for a wine district a while back, everybody talked dry and bought fruity or fruity and sweet. So anyway, this is not a sweet winery. This is a very lovely, balanced wine and winery. So it should be on your experience. Make that call. I mean, if you're truly serious about wine, this is where you need to be. And experienced people, because experienced people, aficionados, really don't particularly care to go into a very crowded tasting room where the buses have stopped, or or the bridesmaids are doing a send off, or that sort of thing. So this is just wonderful, and certainly everybody should, if you're going to be in California. Oregon, is it Oregon or California? Oregon. Yeah, if you're going to be in Oregon, I thought maybe you're on the line. Yeah, if you're going to be in Oregon, this is something you absolutely have to go to. And since it's by reservation, you have to not call the day before.
Well, Willamette Valley in itself is extraordinarily beautiful. I mean, it is gorgeous. And I mean, it's a big valley, and you've got all kinds of things to see and do, and to be able to book a time with you, I think is really, an experience, as wine should be. And I think in a way, I understand what Linda's saying about experienced, wine enthusiasts who want that ultimate experience. But I also think it's really a cool experience for someone starting out in their wine journey, especially if they love music, no matter what style, because, and Dave, this music is dynamics. And if you don't have the dynamic, you don't have a symphony. It's about everything, that orchestration, that symphony of everything coming together. And if you can use that as a tasting metaphor for people to understand and slow down and not play patio pounder, because we're getting to that season, right?
Oh, yeah.
Poolside but I think the Helios is perfect for spring, summer. Like it's a perfect wine for that. But to slow down and really understand and appreciate. And when you're at a small winery, you start to understand, oh my God, they have to go out there in the dirt. Dave had to wash his hands before he came in and talked to you. Don't
I
look
do
at his
take a shower
fingernails.
before people are there.
Yeah, but but that's the thing, right? It's just like Zoom. Everybody suddenly has to get out of their pajamas, like, oh God, we have to do this really and be like human,
goodness.
after you go from that. So I think that this experience of what you're doing is very educational and slows people down to have something very authentic that they're seeking.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, and one of the real benefits to doing this model, the by appointment, one group at a time, is that we can take every customer that comes in from wherever they are on their wine journey. Very important for us. We are not going to talk over your heads. And I've got, as you can imagine, we will get people from all over the spectrum on. I've had some people where we're literally the first winery they've ever visited. And I've had the exact opposite. I've had folks that have been all over the world and now they're here trying the Willamette Valley wines. So we can really customize what we're talking about to really fit each individual customer or group of customers. And just kind of, it sounds silly and simple, but treat them as human beings as opposed to just numbers that just came in.
Yeah. Well, and that goes into, that connectivity, and that's what music does, right? Is musicians want to perform to an audience, not do just a typical live stream. They want that connectivity. We all learned during COVID, every musician I know, some did way better actually, but majority said, dude, we want out. We want out. We want to feel that energy back so we can have a better connection. So I think you're really right on that. On the wine journey, Nancy has a question. Like last night we discussed it, and then I'm like, oh no, they do this. And I went, actually, I haven't a damn clue what I'm talking about. So I better just bring this up. Because then we were talking about, the grapes and what you were doing, especially with Helios. We're like, she goes, well, can they plant that right next to the Pinot Noir? Can the reds and whites grow in the same place? And I'm like, well, of course they can. Wineries have different. And then I'm like, well, maybe they do have to move one on a hill, one down below. So can they be mixed?
Absolutely. Well, so they can be mixed as far as they can go right next to each other. When you're planting, you kind of try to keep, let's say you're planting, Seyval Blanc, you'd like to kind of have what we call a block of Seyval Blanc, which is, a certain number of rows of a certain length, just to kind of keep all those plants together. It makes it easier just for farming purposes. But it's not mandatory. So if you really wanted to be tough on yourself, you really could plant a Seyval Blanc plant, and then the next one you plant a Pinot plant and something else. The key to all that is that grapes are wonderful in that they are self-pollinating. So we do not need bees or any other insects to come through and pollinate the plants for us. And so for that reason, once you've got a vine established, it's very easy to have a crop every year and not have it mix or interbreed. If you think about a pollinator, if you were flying from one plant to another, next thing you know, hey, I don't have the same plant that I started with. Whereas here, hey, we know that the consistency of what we plant is going to be exactly the same year to year.
I'm glad I asked. I had no idea. See, I had no idea. I had a feeling. Just don't tell your mother. Yeah. But because she'll tell you. So Diva Linda, Jupiter, did that make you feel like you were flying to Jupiter in happiness? That was that's the happy joy juice, don't you think? It is incredible.
That's an incredible Pinot. Really, really nice. Big mouthful. Fill.
Yeah, I had to sit down. I had to sit down.
Yeah, you really feel it in there. I had to sit down.
I
think for those of you who are patient, buy two at least, and the first one try now, and the second one leave in your wine case or wherever you're storing your wines for a year, and see just what this wine can do. There's an awful lot of power in this wine, and I think you might find it smooths out a little bit. Not that it needs to, but it might. Just depends on. Once again, I always say this: just because I like it doesn't mean you're going to like it, and it doesn't make either one of us wrong. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. This one you're going to like, and it's just kind of fun in your journey to try something new, such as just being the only people at a winery and having a session. This other thing is to try, especially the reds, a year after you buy them to see what happens. Did it become stronger? Is it the same? Did it become stronger? Did it become smoother? Did it have less acid? Blah, blah, blah. These are things that you learn from, but I think this is a good wine. It's an excellent wine to try that with. So how many acres of this do you have, of this grape?
So for Pinot Noir, we have 5 planted acres on our property.
All the same clone?
It's broken up amongst 7 different clones or strains of Pinot Noir, and The Jupiter that you tasted incorporated 3 of those clones that we blend, and it sort of ties back into the musical theme, because the best way I can describe it is that when I taste any wine, I hear it in my head as much as I taste it. And when I taste the individual clones or strains that we're talking about that go into this, it's like I'm listening to a different instrument. And the idea becomes, okay, what do we want to create? And, you know, with Jupiter, I wanted to create something that felt like it started at the low at the beginning, rose all the way through and onto the finish, and took you on a nice ride. So how do the clones that we use accomplish that? How does it hit those points of your palate that we want to see? And then it becomes just blend to taste. It's always a little bit different every year, but the idea is that once you taste a wine of ours from one vintage, when you come back to the next vintage, you'll at least have a good kind of a mindset about what the personality of the wine is. And every year, because of we're in Oregon and our weather is so radically different every year, that the 2021 version will taste different from the 20 version, which will taste different from the 19 version, and so on and so forth. But folks can really compare apples to apples when you're starting with wines that have the same personality.
Yeah, because it's a foundation, right? Of this is the root stock, really, but it's going to change according to weather. I know it's interesting. I do believe that next time William Shatner beams up, he should take your wine, Jupiter, with him. I do think so. I think he would enjoy.
That would be awesome.
I know he loves wine. I don't know if you've ever seen his old series. He would brown bag wine and take celebrities, whether they drank wine or not, and take wine. They didn't know what they were drinking, and they would have to describe the wine according to their career. So if they were an actor, a singer, or whatever. And we do that at parties, especially if you don't know a bunch of people and you're kind of bored. You're like, come on, let's hear, you know, and then whether they drink wine or not, drink it, you know, and then, you know, they didn't know if it's 2-buck chuck or something really special. You know, it's interesting. And I think that's what's so beautiful about your wine, because like I said, eventually, as soon as we opened Jupiter, I let it air a little bit. We tasted it. I sat down. I went, oh, I got to sit down. Not that I'm going to fall down drunk or stupid. You know, it was sit down because like, whoa, this is amazing. Like you need to sit down and experience exactly what you're saying. And then it's a slow lift off. It's not like A to Z. It's a journey. And so that was, and then we waited again and then tried it again at the end of the evening. And it had already started to change a little bit, which was great I think Linda's dead on about that, about see what happens next. I want to do that.
Absolutely.
Keep it at the bottom of your boat, Linda.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things about us is because we are such a small production winery, we so often have to pour wines when they're very young. And it really, as much as I would, and we do now that we've been in business for a little while, have some library wines that folks can taste when they're here that are a little older, but our latest releases have to get poured sooner than I'd ideally like. And so you're both are absolutely right. One of the things that we talk about to our customers all the time about is, you know, this will develop if you let it sit. On the other hand, for me, I have to make sure that when they're young, they are at least approachable, consumable, and that you can see a roadmap to where they're going. And then everybody will sort of have to take responsibility is where do we want them to get to? You know, do we want to drink them young? Do we want to and that's, I think Linda nailed it about, you know, get a couple of bottles, enjoy one in the short term, let another one sit. Even in a year will make such a big difference for all these wines when we're pouring them.
And make brownies. That's what I didn't do. I've got your recipe for brownies. We need the brownies. I want brownies with it now. Okay.
Well, that's what you asked for recipes, and it was funny. We don't actually have any for the Save Blanc, but we have had suggestions. Which is why I told you dill pickle popcorn was one of those suggestions, and we've had somebody suggest asparagus with it. Another to pair, but it's such a unique wine that it can stand up to some of these really oddball pairings. But I did have recipes for the Pinots, so yes, that's why I sent you. I had such, but I picked those two because they're the two most popular.
I think we have a recipe from Chef Ivan Flowers for spring asparagus salad, and it's got you slice it like, you know, you just grate over fresh Parmesan cheese and a very light balsamic. And oh yeah, that would be, now that I'm thinking about the cheese paired with that, and then the asparagus, that would be, huh? Can we have more? See, Diva Linda, that's what you do, is you try all these things, right? So when it comes to pickles, we could do like a deep fried pickle chips.
Ooh,
Mm.
your Texas is showing out.
Yeah, I'm here temporarily, but like, we travel full time, so it's always something new. So it's kind of interesting to try out, but I think, yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm in Texas and that sounds good. You have barbecue sauce, so that goes with that too.
Barbecue sauce recipe as
For
well.
Jupiter.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
And I was going to
This-
tell you the other thing that we're really known for is that, because you mentioned this earlier, lots of Pinot in the Willamette Valley. We're actually known for more than just Pinot. So in addition to the Seyval Blanc, we make a Pinot Blanc, we have a Rosé, we also source
ooh,
from Eastern Oregon, we source a Syrah and a Cabernet Sauvignon. So when people come here, we are often one of the first places they've been where it's not 5 Pinots and a Chardonnay dropped in front of them. We do a little bit more than that. So that is another thing that kind of sets us apart, I think.
That's interesting about the rosé, because
Yeah.
rosé is finicky to me too. It's like it's either gone this way or that way, and I want that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety out there, and you can pretty much across the board kind of get what you want. For us, it's interesting. I've chased with our rosé. I've taken the approach that I want a rosé you can have with a bacon cheeseburger. So we make our rosé a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder,
beefier.
and a little rounder. So a lot of times with rosé, it's either sweet, which I don't want, or acidic, which I also don't want.
Right.
Mine is softer on the palate, but big enough to where you can food pair it. And we actually sell a lot of it to Texas, because when it's 95 degrees and about 95% humidity, y'all are still eating your brisket. So you got to have something refreshing enough, but gentle enough, but strong enough to stand up to the food.
So has it got minerality in there then to kind of,
Yep.
yeah, I like that. Now
your
That's why I think
soil, your soil is part volcanic, is that correct?
It's pretty much all volcanics. That's one of the
All
things
volcanic.
about our particular site, is that it's pretty uniform. And that's one of the reasons that we have so many different clones of Pinot planted. There are sites in the Willamette Valley that have, oh my gosh, there are some that have 7, 8 different soil types on it. We don't quite have that. So, the complexity that we're looking for is going to come, partially from the soil, but then also from our clonal selections. So we kind of have to play both sides of that.
Yeah, I
How
think
many
my favorite
acres?
wines.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Sarah.
I think my favorite wines start with the volcanic soil. There's something in that that just adds a little something, and a little depth to the wine for sure. There's depth in their earthiness that really is quite wonderful. So, gosh, if you were a little warmer, you could do some outstanding red wines. But good for you for not getting roped into doing wines you can't really do. So good for you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
You can't put a square peg in a round hole, but I will tell
No.
you that we are working on some projects here with some different types of red grapes that are grown in cooler climates, that are very unusual, but that have a track record of producing great wines in our types of climates. They're not going to be things that are as commercially well known, much like the Seyval. But as you've seen, you can certainly create fantastic wines from grapes that, are not going to be on a lot of people's radars. And, if we were a big commercial producer, that might be a problem. But, when you're here at the winery, you get to taste it and you get to sort of make your own decisions. And, the diversification that Sara was talking about in terms of both what we produce and what we grow here is going to be so important to our future, because this area is so heavily Pinot Noir dependent. And there are very good historical reasons for that. But as the business evolves and develops, we really need to spread out a little bit and sort of prove, hey, we're not just a one-trick pony here in Oregon.
Yeah, don't
We can
limit.
do a lot of different things.
And people have different tastes, it's like art, some people love abstract, some people look at it and go, I haven't a damn clue what that is, and I'm not doing it, so everybody, it is an art form, to me, the wine is. I think what you're saying is interesting, Linda, about volcanic soil, Nancy and I've noticed just from the traveling, it seems to me that when an area either has a volcanic or has some kind of river that's going, or so the sediment, right? Or it's an area that's being mined. If there's mining, you normally find wine and roses will grow. Roses will grow where wineries are, and some of the best wines come out of mined areas. Yeah, wineries. Let's just do that as a new word. But yeah, I don't know if it's just that there's this minerality happening in the soil, that if it's, you can, dig gold out of there or silver or whatever it is, hey, we can do wine, Is it the iron?
Iron's the real big one there. One of the things about the
Oh.
soil is much like you'd expect from a volcano, right? The dirt has this reddish tint to it. So since we've lived here for about 10 years, we've learned that white clothes just are not worth buying anymore here. And so, that iron that oxidizes once it comes to the surface, that gets into everything, and like I said, it's just part of it. But it gives you that minerality that you're talking about. There are other, that's the vast majority of it.
Well, as women, we need iron, and that's why I drink wine now. See?
There you go.
I
Healthy,
like that.
good for you.
I just have one more question or point of interest. When you bought your land, it was a tree farm. Is
Well,
that correct?
that might be generous. That implies there was actually farming going on.
Oh, there were Christmas trees, or there were trees on your. Did you cleared what you needed, and you were able to pick your own clones? Some of the wine countries that I've been to or worked for are a little stuck because the clones were decided many years back before the business of cloning or providing different varieties in different ways came about. So you had an opportunity to study what clones might do best. Did you have any scientists, or did you have the local university or the people who do all these clones come out and look at your soil, or did you send soil samples in, or how did you go about choosing your clones?
So
He had a white shirt on.
So when we found the property, it actually was not listed. It was covered in dead Christmas trees. It had a relatively new looking house on it, and it had a pole barn that I thought would make a great winery building. And we did write an offer. We negotiated a price, and the offer was contingent on there being some independent soil testing done. We were pretty sure that we had a good site for a variety of reasons. There is one of the oldest vineyards in the valley is actually our immediate next door neighbor. So, things looked good, but you always obviously want to make sure that you're not sitting on top of a nuclear waste dump or something like that. And it was a little concerning that the Christmas trees had died repeatedly. They had kept replanting, and they would get about 2 feet tall and they would die again. So I wanted to make sure there wasn't something weird going on. Yes, the soil testing came back excellent, pretty much what we expected. It did take us about a year to get it cleared off, and then we spent, so that would have been 2013, and in 2014 we started planting. The clone selection, we knew at that point that we had, like Dave said, 100% of this volcanic soil in the vineyard space, and the only way to really ensure some great variety was to use the clones, right? So to plant different types of clones and different types of Pinot or strains of Pinot. To your point about how do you pick, right? Pommard is probably the #1 clone grown in the valley, so that's kind of a given. As for the rest of them, we settled on some Dijon clones. We were sourcing as well originally from other micro growers like us in the valley. So we tried to work with people that were really small. But Dave had done a harvest internship. We joked that he was the world's oldest harvest intern at a large winery in the Willamette Valley, and worked very closely with the winemaker there, and learned a lot about being out in the vineyard and what each of the clones tasted like. And so when we were making those decisions, that winemaker actually very generously took us through their barrel room and said, okay, here's this particular clone grown at an elevation and aspect very similar to yours. And so here's what it's probably going to taste like. And so that was really helpful.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, to identify what we wanted and what we thought would work well. We've made some adjustments over the years, and we've planted things. Originally we had planned to plant the entire thing to Pinot. It became fairly evident to us very quickly that there's a lot of Pinot in the valley and we really didn't need to do that. And B, we wanted to differentiate. So we had changed our plan a few times. I don't know, probably about 5 years ago, we decided, no more Pinot. So
Well, what we have is plenty for what we need.
plenty. In fact,
Yeah.
than we need really. And we have a hyper vigorous site. We knew we had a high vigor site. We didn't realize quite how vigorous it would be. And so our vines tend to produce quite a bit more than we actually need without sacrificing the quality that we want.
That's awesome though. Yeah.
Yeah, for the last year actually was the first year we were 100% Pinot independent. We did not source Pinot from anywhere in 2022. And we actually had so much we sold some of it. So that was exciting, to actually,
Wow.
actually
I wonder if the Christmas trees actually helped your soil in a way as like a good mulch kind of.
Not really. We literally, they popped right out very easily.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What we were told was if the pH of your soil is not great for Christmas trees, it's probably great for grapes. And that has proven to be true. So yeah.
Things that you would never think you'd need to know in life.
Nope. Yeah.
I had no
It's
idea,
learning
but
experience.
We've learned a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's been fun, and it's been exciting, especially in the last year, to see everything kind of come online finally, and be independent and not have to deal with grower drama anymore. And so
No, yeah, that's cool. I think it's so hard. Wineries are so hard. They're not cheap and it's hard work. And then on top of it, you're having the human connection of building relationships with people coming into the tasting room. You need some wine. I think it's amazing. Diva Linda, you always come up with good people on our shows and good wines. I mean, this is exceptional. It really, kudos to you guys. I hope you have continued success. And I love that you're diversified because I think, well, we're the blend. So we always think that because, everybody has a different taste, different time of growing into different wines. And it's enjoying wine is a journey in its own thing. You don't hit a hole in one every day in golf, and I wouldn't know how to do that. That would be no, but you know what I mean? It is a journey. So it's a journey for those, savoring the wine and tasting, and definitely for you guys. But yeah, entrepreneurs, and I love the diversity because it's also adding more to Willamette Valley, to the portfolio, to not just be Pinot Noir. And we've seen this in places where they get known just for one thing. And there's always something more. But just it gets this one track mind about a region, like Julian and apples. I'm just going to say Julian San Diego is a 4-season destination up in the mountains. They do have wine, but all people know is go there for apple days. And the apples normally are ripe in July, August, and they all go in fall. And then the town gets run over because of this one track mind that, human beings, we're easy to do that. It's easy for us to become one track, So I think what you're doing is helping your region and helping people understand there's so much more, and there is. So thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you. Diva Linda's got a great article about her wine tasting journey with the Bells Up Winery up on blendradioandtv.com. We also have the recipes on the site, so you can see those up there. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Linda is here every first Saturday because she has to be first. She's a diva. And of course, bellsupwinery.com is the place to go. Do you ship wine or is it primarily go in?
We ship all over the country.
Did you hear that, everybody? Say that again. Yes.
We ship wine all over the country. The main limitation is weather. There are only 2 states that are troublesome for us, Utah and Kentucky, that usually we have to find a workaround. But other than that, we can get wine to you very easily anywhere you are. So just
Yeah, you
give
can
us a
just
call,
drive
email
over the
us.
state line. That's all. Just
Mhm.
come on. That's what it's all about. Awesome. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, Diva Linda.
My pleasure.